happened. Hi, my loves, my beloveds. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Whether you are joining us from Instagram, from the StreamYard itself, from LinkedIn, or one of the other amazing places that the AIDS United and Melanated movement has broadcast me, I am Dr. Christy Perez, and I am your lovely host for Ask Dr. Christy. I want to just welcome you and tell you a little bit about who I am as we start this journey together. So I'm Dr. Christy Perez, based in Atlanta, Georgia, working with all of my beloveds at AIDS United and Melanated movement. I'm a public theologian and religious historian, as well as a community activist organizer out here making sure to protect the people, educate the people, and empower the people. And with this Ask Dr. Christy series, we're going to be coming to you twice a month on Wednesdays. And it's going to be a great opportunity for you to be able to dive in, to have questions that are real, that are able to be answered in a way that affirms you, that educates you, that sets you up with the tools and the resources, because we love resources that are going to make sure you feel empowered and are living your very best life. And I'm so excited to be here with you. So I want to talk a little bit about the work that I do as an HIV educator and advocate. I have worked in the carceral environment with people returning from incarceration, and right here in the Atlanta, Georgia area, doing harm reduction work and doing work to educate and to prevent and also to destigmatize. You know, as I said recently, it's not the virus that's the problem, it's the stigma. And so I want us to go ahead and just set some expectations for what we're going to be doing with this Ask Dr. Christy platform. This is a place where you can bring your questions live in time. You can also submit via the form that you'll see in bio, and also advertise on the AIDS United page or my page if you happen to follow me. This is a great space for honest conversation, a place that you can ask the hard questions, but get the soft answers. And that is oftentimes very important and underappreciated. Also, this is a great place for you to be able to connect with individuals, whether that be in the professional networking capacity or to meet more community members, because you know what they say, it takes a village. Whether you're just living life or you're trying to get something done, it takes a village. So we're going to be using this time with Dr. Christy and the Melanated movement to build that village. So I kind of want to give you a little overview about what Ask Dr. Christy is going to be about. So this is going to be a monthly live conversation that is centered around HIV education, prevention, care, and stigma reduction. This space is designed for Black people, for Afro-Caribbean, Afro-Latina community. If you're Afro-Latina, Afro-Latino, hi, that's me too, welcome. But this is for a space also for people currently living with HIV and with reasons for prevention as well. This is a space for those that know people who are living with HIV. Maybe you're trying to get more education, you're trying to find resources and be supportive. This is a space for professionals, for advocates. This is a space for everybody. So what we're going to be looking at is we're going to be grounding in the idea of risks to reasons, which is this great thing that my program manager at Melanated Movement, Carly, shout out to Carly if you're there, Carly got to show me and teach me a little bit about. And what we're going to be doing is we're going to be making sure that we curate a community-centered space for all of the above that we just kind of went over. And I want you to know that there is no question that is too basic. There's no question that has been asked too many times before. There's no question that is too delicate. And if you do feel that you have a question that is delicate, or perhaps you'd like a little bit more confidentiality around it, you can feel free to reach out directly to me at Christy@AIDSUnited.org. aidsunited.org. And we will get you a private answer that is everything that you need. And this is a great way to reach out to be able to get the type of one-on-one resource and help that you may want. Some other things that we're looking to do throughout the course of this program is we are looking to make sure, it's C. Perez. New email, still learning. So it's cperez@aidsunited.org. So you can reach there and go ahead and get in touch with me, and we'll go ahead and have whatever type of conversation you want to, and just know that you are in a safe space. Thank you, Carly, for catching that. So I want to go ahead and say a big, huge thank you to AIDS United and to the Melanated movement. Thank you to the program manager, Carly, and to all of the staff. Shout out to our tech guy, D'Angelo, everyone who's helping make this partnership, this collaboration so wonderful and so effective, especially during a time where our community, particularly Black women and of course Black men, are being impacted by HIV funding cuts and infrastructural changes. A little light note around, it's very important that in this space, we're going to go ahead and center culture, equity, and truth in how we talk about HIV. It's very important, the things that we say about ourselves and what we say about individuals that are living, I like to say, thriving gloriously, despite having an HIV diagnosis or positive status. I think it's really important that we be mindful and respectful in this space. Your words can be medicine or they can be harm. And we always choose to administer good medicine, okay? Something else is we want to go ahead and recognize partners and funders and supporting narrative shifting work like this programming. And that includes like Viv Healthcare's Risk to Raisins and Merit Concepts. Now, as far as how you can engage and submit questions, that's a very, very easy thing to do. You can submit questions live here in the comments. We'll be here, twice a month pretty much. So you can submit your questions live here in the comments, and we'll do our very best to get to them, as many of them as we can. Additionally, you can also submit questions in advance via the Google form. You'll be able to find that in places like on AIDS United's various profile pages. And as I said earlier, you can always submit a question either anonymously or to have discussed on the broadcast to cperez@aidsunited.org. So as terms of our viewing schedule information, you're going to be able to watch this on the AIDS United platform, and that will be at aidsunited.org/action/melanated with the little dash movement / You'll be able to get that there. And I'm pretty sure our tech person will go ahead and pop that up somewhere around here so that you know exactly where you can go. And of course, you'll be able to find this on the AIDS United platforms. And this will be every second Wednesday of the month at 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So if you're not here in the Eastern time zone like I am, make sure you do some calendar rearrangement so that we can get you locked in, because we want to be able to engage with you. We want to be able to answer questions. And what we're really hoping to get out of this is to increase that sense of community. We live in this time that is so hyper individualistic that I think many of us are really craving the emotional and psychological sustenance that is a genuine relationship with people. And we can build that here. So I'm very excited for that. Now, what we're going to do is we are going to jump into a few pre-submitted questions. So I want to go ahead and take a moment to brag on the Melanated movement and AIDS United staff, because our first broadcast, we already have, a small pocket full of questions. And that's very, very interesting and amazing to be able to go into this program and have some already. So we're going to dive into some of the questions that we've received. And, I hope that you will be dropping questions in the chat as well. We can't wait to be able to answer and engage with you. So question number 1, are we ready? The first question we received was, how would you recommend bringing up PrEP to a partner? And I think this is a great question because it's telling me that you are a person who is really invested in this relationship and the health outcomes for both people. So what I would do is I would recommend that you sit down with a partner You make sure there's no stress going on around in life, and that can be difficult. I know. You find the perfect time. Everybody's fed and satisfied. The mood is good. And you say, I want to have what might at first appear like a heavy conversation, but it's an investment conversation. And you segue that into saying it's an investment into our health and our happiness. And you're going to bring up what PrEP is, ask them if they've ever heard of it before. You can have your phone handy maybe, or a laptop or tablet, and have a little Google search, or you can find resources as well on AIDS United's page that shows kind of some of the highlights of what PrEP is and what it does and why it's important. And you can tell this person that, you care about them, you care about yourself, and that PrEP is a great way for y'all to have power over your sexual health and well-being. And I love that phrase, that PrEP is power. But more importantly, PrEP is an opportunity. It's an opportunity for us to get the best out of each other and for a very, very, very low threshold of investment. What more can you ask? So we'll go ahead and move on to the second question. What do successful couples do to keep each other accountable when it comes to self-care? This is a heavy question. So successful couples, the number one thing in any area, but particularly when it comes to self-care, is we have to have open pathways of conversation. We have to be able to communicate consistently, healthily, and we both have to have created a safe space for each other where even tough or delicate conversations are able to come up. And so successful couples tend to do things like reminding each other about checkups, checking in with each other about doses, checking in with each other about how can I support? Where do you need me to lift burden? Where do you need me to tap in? Where do you need me to listen more? Because those are important for the maintenance of the communication. Other ways that successful couples keep each other accountable is by setting goals. A lot of times we hear about couples where their individual goals, like I'm going to do X, Y, Z, or I'm going to take care of this thing, or I want this thing for myself, even in terms of health and fitness. And it's very important, even when it comes to our sexual health and well-being, that couples have collective joint goals and that they're striving towards that. And the way that is done is by sitting down and saying, hey, what is our important objective? What are we looking for as an outcome? And then that helps you guys track each other. And this type of advice right here, in my opinion, works very well in every area of a couple's relationship dynamics, whether that be tracking financial goals or whatever. So this is one of the major things. And we can go ahead and we can take a look at our next question. Pill fatigue is real. Ooh, I've heard this. Pill fatigue is real, especially now with all the rapid changes to our shared social / political / economic lives. What are strategies to keep us aware of the importance of taking our meds, giving ourselves grace if we forget / miss a dose? This is a wonderful question. So I want to say as a caveat, kind of a preface, that we should be trying to minimize the missing of all doses, okay? Whether that is a person taking diabetic medicine, whether that is hormones, whether that is whatever. We always want to try to be as compliant as we can with the medicine. Now, what I will also say is that grace has to be a part of life. It has to be a practice. I think a lot of people mistake grace as being an action that is extended in a particular condition or in response to a circumstance. But grace has to be a practice that we extend to ourselves and to each other. With pill fatigue, my problem with that is that I feel like pill fatigue tries to make very weighty something that is supposed to be very accessible. For those who are dandelions, for those that may have lived the majority or even from birth with HIV diagnoses, then they know how far medicine has come, how far medical science has come, and how it went from a slew of clinical treatment necessary to keep a person perfectly healthy and alive and give them all of the potentiality of life. Whereas now there is, with one pill a day, or even in some cases with a shot per month, we are having these higher, more meaningful qualities of life for people living with HIV. And so when we take that word fatigue, it kind of lets us begin to think that the very thing that gives us this high quality of life is an exhausting thing, or is a burden, or something to that effect. And words are very powerful. The things that we say begin to shift how we think about something. And so I would lovingly encourage us to try to avoid things like saying pill fatigue. Now, at the heart of it, I think that strategies to keep us aware of the importance of taking our meds is really a practice of gratitude. I think for those that may have emerged in the era of more advanced medicine, we have perhaps not reckoned fully with just how much of a miracle and just how wonderful it is. And I think, like with anything in life, just being able to count our blessings, count the fortunate things, the friends that we have, the job that we maybe enjoy or don't enjoy, it depends. If you're anything like me, you're just ready to retire to an island. But so I think that this is definitely a huge strategy, is being mindful about how good life is. I think that a lot of times we constantly are setting new goals, new objectives, saying, when I get this, when I get the house, when I get the job, when I reach this type of health or this type of physicality, then I'll be happy. But in the midst of that, we forget to be happy and to be grateful for how good things are now. Now, with the grace component, you are only human. You are going to miss a day. You are going to, that is part of life. Travel happens, life happens, kids happen, all types of things happen. And the only thing that you can do is, for your own records, log it on your calendar, log it in your phone calendar. So that way, when you're doing a follow-up with your doctor and they say, hey, have you missed a dose? You can say, yes, this was the day. But of course, once you miss the dose, you just go right back in and you try to take it back up again. There's no point to stay on a losing streak. Looks like my Duolingo if you do that. But yeah, so we can go to the next question now. And our next question is a really good one, honestly. It's a really good one. It's been talked about a lot, and people have brought their different opinions on it. And it's one that a lot of us probably have the answer for, but we still live in a time where a lot of people are just getting their first exposure to this information. So, pretty clean-cut question. What should one do to prevent getting HIV? I mean, the number one piece of advice I can give you is to get tested regularly and to ask your healthcare provider for PrEP, okay? These are the number one pieces of advice. Get tested regularly and ask your provider for PrEP. If you are unaware of whether your provider offers PrEP, or you're unsure if your provider is going to provide the safe space for you to ask questions related to sexual health and well-being, like HIV prevention, find a provider who is able to. But there are resources online. You can go to aidsunited.org. You can also go to the CDC's website, where there are resources that will show you where you can get PrEP for very low cost, and providers that provide that. But as far as some other things that you can do in terms of the prevention of HIV is have honest conversations with partners. I think that we live in an age where, I don't know about you, I know about me, I grew up as the instant gratification generation, drive-throughs, microwave, refrigerator meals. I hate a line. I hate to wait. And so I think that when it comes to our sexual health and wellness, we need to be okay with a little pause to have a conversation honestly, try to ask for status, ask for results, and also condoms help. Use a condom. I know sometimes we get caught up in the moment. The passion's just right. Everything's just right. And in terms of other types of HIV prevention, obviously for those who are substance users, we want to make sure that we're not sharing tools. We want to make sure that we're not sharing paraphernalia, such as needles and things like that. And it's very important to be mindful of the ways in which HIV is able to be shared to another person. So that's some thoughts right there. Gay Kevin. I love your name. Okay, we're loud and proud. I love it. I'm watching from Uganda and in East Africa. Can I get a friend here? Because I have no friend here. They hate me just because. Well, I want you to know in this space, you are loved, Kevin. You are loved and you are accepted. And I'm so sorry. I genuinely am truly sorry. The world can be very cruel, it can be very unfair, it can be very cold. But you do have friends here at AIDS United. You do have friends at the Melanated movement, and you sure as heck have a friend in me. I encourage you to reach out to any of us for support, for advice, for just having somebody that you can vent to. I don't know if that is something that you've been able to do recently, Kevin. And a lot of times we don't even need people to fix our issues. We just need somebody to hear us out, to let us have a moment of humanity, to express ourselves. And I want you to know this is definitely a space for that. And you can always reach out to us. And being able to find even one person in your local community would be super important, Kevin, that you can have conversations with and have that friendship with. I'm really sorry that you're having that type of experience. Nobody should be made to feel bad or shamed or stigmatized because of a positive status. That is wrong. And I'm sending you love. So we're going to jump to our next question. How often should people in relationships get tested? How important is it still? Full stop. You should get tested regularly. You should ask your provider what is a good testing regimen or schedule for you. You can go to clinics. There are tons of free testing sites and locations as well. I know just here in the Atlanta, Georgia area, it seems like every organization now does free HIV testing. So there's a plethora of places you can do it. I think that a lot of people believe because they're in a relationship, especially if that relationship is monogamous, then I'm fine. I no longer have to get tested or testing isn't relevant. But that is not the appropriate way to think. And the reason why is even beyond HIV, there are a slew of different STI and STD that are skin to skin. This can be from like touching door handles, believe it or not. This is true. There have been cases with certain types of HPV, which were passed from surface touch. So, but you should always be getting tested. We live in a time where we want to believe in the best in people, and we want to believe that our partners are being everything that they said they would be and everything that we need them to be. But ultimately, you are the greatest protector of your health and well-being, even when in a partnered relationship. And it's just important in general to have that testing relationship. I think it's a great way for both couples to hold accountability, as we discussed in another question. And I think it's a great way for them to show invested interest in the overall health of the individuals in the relationship as like an established thing, you know? And it doesn't matter what type of relationship situation you have, because there are different types. There's like polyamory, monogamy. It doesn't matter. We all need to be getting tested. So yes, it is very important still. And we can hop to our next question. What are some signs that I am in a safe space and with a safe person to discuss sex and HIV prevention? This is a really good question. So some of the signs, they differ a little bit based upon whether this is a person you already have known or if this is a person you're meeting for the first time, say like a provider. Now, one of the things that I will tell you is if you're trying to have this conversation with like a friend or something, rule number one that I always tell people in every regard, if it's not something that you're okay with potentially ending up in other unauthorized hearers' minds, and you don't want them in your business, be very careful whom you talk to. The second piece of advice I have for you is if this person has ever made you feel unsafe or unwelcomed or on the defensive, about other topics that are important to you. This is a sign that maybe this person might not be the best person to have this conversation with. Ultimately, you have to decide that. Some other signs in terms of our interpersonal relationships are people who tend to be negative naturally, people who are fear mongers naturally. We know them. We all have the friend. I have one who's an expert complainer. You know, these are the people that can sometimes, they can walk into a fully newly rebuilt home and it's beautiful. It's got everything, all the decoration, all the wallpaper, all the great furniture, and they'll notice the one crack in the corner in the ceiling somewhere. Okay. So those types of people are also people that you want to avoid. I think that generally people who show you love and respect, who have shown you before that they can trust, that they can be trusted with delicate or heavy, very personal things. These are people that are much, much safer individuals to have this type of discussion with. Now, in the realm of a romantic partner, a sexual partner, signs of safety, and this is a safe space, is how is this person's general disposition anyway? If they're a person that gets very aggravated, very irritated, very, conflict driven very quickly, overall, I would advise that maybe this is not the person that you should be carrying on with, but then this is a clear sign that they're not going to be a safe space for you. Additionally, if you begin to open up the conversation and there's pushback, this is an immediate sign. I think that when it comes to clinical and healthcare spaces, it's going to be a much easier. I'm not saying that there are not bad outcomes that have happened in the past with providers, but I do think it will be much easier for you to find those safe spaces there. The number one thing, definitely listen to your gut, gauge the conversation as you go along, and choose the person based upon their accessibility, their sincerity, and how they've demonstrated trustworthiness in the past with other situations. Okay. And we are going to jump to our next question that we got asked. Why do I sometimes see my body differently than others do? And how does that affect my confidence or health decisions? Wow. So it's human nature that we tend to be very hard on ourselves. We are the least forgiving with ourselves than we are with anybody. And because of that reality, a lot of us have an external face, what I call the mask, and then we have the internal reality behind the face. Most of the people that are very buoyant and they come off as hyper confident and whatnot, these are people that struggle with severe insecurities usually. So I want you to know that everybody sees their body poorly at times. They look at themselves with poor eyes or in poor lighting at times. That's not the truth though. Our vision of how we see ourselves is very much so shaped and impacted, some would even say limited, by existing in this world, hearing judgments, hearing stigma, the reality. Ooh, that Coca-Cola got me. The reality of all the different types of trauma and aggressions and microaggressions that we've dealt with. We tend to think that like bad experiences get categorized, like, oh, this was a gender-based situation, this was a racial thing, this was a economic thing. We try to categorize wrongs and harms. But the reality is, it's to who we really are, to our subconscious self, our deepest self, all harm, all discrimination, all bias, all stigma, all these things affect how we feel about ourselves. And so sometimes you will see yourself in the light that other people have seen you. And even when people who see you good, or they sing your praises, or they're trying to point out the strengths in you, you're focusing on what you perceive as the deficiencies or the shortcomings or the things that you would like to change. Or why isn't my body like this? Why don't I look like that? Why don't I feel like that? Why do I have this health situation or that health situation? And if you allow yourself to stay in this space, it is definitely going to have an impact on your confidence. It's going to have an impact on your overall health outcomes as well. It's important that we show ourselves grace. It's important that we talk. And I say this as a person who used to talk so bad to myself. It's really important that we have a loving conversation with ourselves. I heard something a couple years ago that really stuck with me and shaped my kind of inner dialogue, the conversations I have with myself. And it was, be the lover to yourself that you know you deserve. And it's like, I think that a lot of us, we will cut off people because they don't see our value, they don't see our worth, they don't talk right to us, they don't trust us, they don't support us, they don't affirm us, all the things, right? But then we will do those same things to ourselves. And I want to encourage you to be loving to yourself. Love on yourself. Be kind to yourself. Take yourself to do nice things. Show yourself that medical compliance, like taking our medicine, going to the gym, drinking water, getting adequate sleep, all these things. That's self-care. That's romancing. I don't know about anybody here, but I want somebody to court me. I want somebody to romance me, to woo me, to wine and dine me. But I also have to do that to myself. I have to be emotionally and mentally and with my time and with my habits and my practices. I have to court myself. I have to love on myself. I have to woo myself. And so I think that by trying to be intentional about this, you'll be able to see your body, yourself, your confidence and your health, all of those things in a light that is so much greater than even the most affirming and kind things said by other people. Okay. And I just want you to know that you're amazing. You're beloved. You are special. And, you know, girl, you the bomb. Girl, you the bomb. And I'm going to go ahead and go on to our next question. Oh, this is our last question. How do I find the provider that is best suited to provide competent care in a humanizing clinical environment? I love the juxtaposition of those two words. Shout out to Carly. I love those two words being next to each other, humanizing and clinical, because I think that's probably a collection of words that we're really not used to like see and sat next to each other. And I love that for them. I think the reality is that if you already have a healthcare provider that you've been going to for a while, who is like, they're a cool person, they're dope, you know, they're nice, they're affirming, they make you feel comfortable, this might be a good person to dive in with. However, I generally recommend that people go to specialists. And the reason why is like, when you have a heart problem, you go to a heart doctor. When you have a hormone or endocrine system issue, you go to an endocrinologist. When you're having diabetic or liver, kidney issues, you go to a nephrologist. You know, we go to specialists. And you want to make sure that you're getting somebody that has the experience of managing a patient caseload with competent, constitutionally commensurate, and adequate medical care provision. You also want to go to somebody that is not going to, you know, give in to stigmas. I think we tend to think that doctors all graduate knowing all the same knowledge in common, but there's a reason why there's fields, and doctors at the end of the day are still only human. You have some who have not done a lot of CDC-based, like kind of epidemiology and, you know, disease medicine, HIV medicine, things like that. And so these doctors who don't work in that field, they can have stigma, they can have bias, but finding a center, a clinic, a provider that this is one of their main areas of practice or their main area of a practice ensures that you're going to get a doctor who is affirming to you, who prioritizes not just your health, being a person living with HIV, but also they prioritize like your mental and emotional well-being because you're a whole entire person. Definitely, I think finding a provider who this is their expertise area is important also because they tend to stay on top of the medical literature. They tend to stay on top of the developments in the clinical area. They're more savvy about the scientific breakthroughs, and they're able to give you more accurate and honest information around that literature, because I know that for many people who are living with HIV, they keep their attention very keenly on the area of scientific and medical advancement. So these are all great reasons for that. In terms of the actual how you find them, a simple Google search will probably pull up centers and resources near you. I believe you can also reach out to AIDS United and see a list of providers as well. If you live in the Atlanta, Georgia area, there are several different places where you can find your provider. AHF is one of them. And in terms of, there's no, in the Piedmont Clinic as well. Shout out to Dr. Ashley Ortia. But definitely make sure you're having an honest conversation and follow your gut. We most of the time know within a few moments if we like and trust a person. So just because they're a doctor doesn't mean that they have to disregard your liking and your trust, your confidence in them. So find a provider that feels good, that prioritizes you as an entire person and not just a person that is living with HIV. Okay. Do we have any more questions coming in? Any more? No more right now? Well, I want to go ahead and I want to tell you again, we will be here the second Wednesday of every month at Wednesday, 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. I would love it if you would make sure you're going to follow the AIDS United Melanated movement page. At that page, you can sign up for the newsletter to find out about all of the awesome and interesting things that the Melanated movement is doing to make sure that we are providing programming and information for Black women with HIV and around HIV prevention and around HIV destigmatization and just awesomeness in general. Some other things that I want to tell you about is that you're able to explore the Melanated movement content and resources. They've curated a lovely collection of different resources, informational sections, and good content. Some other things I would love for you to do is make sure you go ahead and you follow AIDS United at AIDS United. They're on all social media platforms. You can find them on LinkedIn. You can find them on Instagram. I believe you can find them on Twitter, or is it called X now? I refuse to call it X. It's Twitter. But, and if you want to, you're more than welcome to follow me. I am at Uncaged Christy on all social media platforms because I'm chronically online. So if you're there, I'm there, we're there together. But please make sure you share this series within community. It's really important that we're also getting this series to providers and advocacy spaces because we would love to hear from providers and from advocacy spaces. Black HIV activism has been at the helm, the forefront of advancing legislative, legal, and medical conversation around HIV research, and improving the quality of life for those living with HIV. It's also been at the forefront of destigmatization conversations and just in general holding power accountable. Additionally, if we're sharing inside with providers, we can maybe get some of those people to come on here with some great questions or some better answers. I want to go ahead and extend a huge thank you. We've had a nice amount of action today, people popping in and out. We've had a couple questions in the chat. It's been a wonderful day. Looks like we got some hearts and likes. And I want to reiterate, we're going to be here back again on March 11th. March 11th, we'll be here with bells and whistles, and I want to see you. And for now, I want to tell you to sharpen your mind, protect your spirits, and live the best life you can. I cannot wait to see you again. Besotes, besotes, besotes. Ciao till next time.